Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Travellers Season 2, Episode 6. It is called U235, which is not a sequel to the Irish band, just in case anyone thought it was.
Okay, we're off to a great start here.
Anyway, so here to talk about Travellers, which is a TV show with science fiction and time travel and shenanigans. So we ended last episode in quite the predicament. We had this virus spreading all over the world. We found out that because the director's down in the future, and they really set that home this episode because we weren't entirely clear what the director's condition was in the future last episode, but they made it very
Yeah,
clear early on here that no, the director's just not operational right now.
yeah.
Because a big part of the plot in this one is that if we can't just solve the virus here and now, then we'll try and fix the director for the future so that the director in the future can have the time to figure things out and send back
It's a good plan.
a resolution. It is a good plan. And it leads to some fun things, some misdirects, because they really let us think one thing when they're actually pulling off another little trick.
Yeah, it's nice.
So no. So it was another sort of exciting episode, lots of stuff going on. There was some really poignant moments, I thought. Just before we get to the main plot, I really like so David in this episode, he's at the shelter,
Yeah,
and he's serving soup, and this one of the guys that he works with, or one of his patients, quote unquote, dies. He's trying to give him soup, and the guy dies. Again, I was feeling really squirmy because the guy kept coughing, and I thought he was coughing into the soup, and I'm like, that's no, don't
yeah,
cough into the
yeah.
soup.
And David, look, you've got a face mask for a reason.
Yeah, keep it on.
Like, keep it. I mean, yeah, take it down. Go, yeah, all right, it's me. Put it back on, like immediately. Don't just leave it down for the rest of the conversation.
Yeah. It doesn't even matter if, by the way, it doesn't even matter if the virus transfers that way. I don't want anyone coughing in my soup. Just
Well,
for
yeah,
the record.
obviously,
It's just disgusting. Okay? Just for
it's
the
true.
record.
But I mean, yeah, the homeless probably aren't that picky.
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's fair. But that said, in this case, we've got a virus spreading around. If some of them aren't infected yet, and this guy's coughing
Yeah,
out the
yeah,
soup.
he's killing them all.
Yeah. So he dies, he's really upset. But what I really liked about this, I like the empty street stuff. When David leaves the building, and there's just empty streets in the city, and he's just looking around, and there's no one there because everyone's staying at home to try and not get sick. Also, his references. I think he was referencing Contagion. I could be wrong, but it's just the first movie that came to mind. That's within a few years old. But he keeps talking
Yeah,
about how he feels like a main character in a movie that's not going to end well, thinking
yeah,
that
yeah.
he's going to die. And he even talks about the looting when his boss comes round and tells him to go home. He's like, I don't get the looting. Like, everyone is possibly dying. I'm going to smash that window and steal a TV.
He's
Like,
right. I don't get it either.
I don't get it
No, no.
either.
I mean, in like other apocalypse situations where it's like, oh, okay, no, we need to survive. Sure, but
Well,
it's it's a
even then, I get it for food. If you think the food's going to be hard to come by later, I get maybe why everyone tries to
yeah,
grab food.
yeah,
TV's a bit weird.
yeah. It is.
Because as David points out, it's you get a pretty decent TV for next to nothing now.
Yeah, he's right.
You may not be living with the best thing ever, but you can get a pretty reasonable little TV that'll do you nicely for not a
Yeah,
lot of money. It's just not a big expense now.
it's not compared to what it used to be.
Hell, they cracked that joke in Back to the Future about just the difference between the 50s and the 80s and how in the 80s you'd have more than one TV in the house.
Yeah,
Because in the 50s it was such a like this is months of rent
yeah,
that you're spending on a TV. Not the case anymore. So
no,
that was a weird tangent. I mean, it was the show's fault they brought it up, but I just.
yeah. Exactly. It was relevant. It counts.
But no, I really like the empty street stuff. And then a lot more. Obviously, Marcy over the episode because she brought up with Carly brought up last episode about how maybe she wasn't sure she wanted to have the reset before in season one,
Yeah.
and maybe it was done because she was dying without her actually making the choice. And she brings up, her and Grace have got some arguments this episode. Grace is
Mm.
convinced that she doesn't like her. More on that when we talk about that plot. But at the end, when she comes back to see David, and she's like just making sure he's okay. And he actually doesn't need the antidote; he's fine. But
Yeah.
she's like, "I'll be back later," and she says it so casually. She says just casually, "I'll be back later," and I'm like, "Oh, that's a good improvement." She's really caring about David. She's
Yeah.
kind of she's
Exactly.
really fighting back for this and wants to be back to kind of even though she doesn't remember it, the feeling is kind of there regardless. And
Or even if the feeling isn't quite there, it's she knows it should be, so she wants it.
I I think for me the fact that she's been like struggling wanting to call him for like weeks is me to me is her having the feeling.
No, that's fair. I mean,
Maybe
I'm
not
just
the exact feeling of what she was like at the end of the journey before she reset, but I think
no, no. I get you.
the feelings for him and the wanting to be around him and wanting that life back certainly I think is there. But now the moment I loved though is as she's leaving, she's like, "I'll be back later, but don't wait up." And she leaves, and he immediately just sort of sighs and goes, "I'll probably wait up."
Yeah, yeah,
I relate to that line so much. That is exactly the sort of thing that the way my mind works. Like, no, I'll wait up. I don't care if it's 4 in the morning. I'll be
yeah.
up.
But to be fair, you'd be up at 4 in the morning anyway.
Okay, sure, but like my point I'm making is that I would make the effort to stay up. Like I get his the fact that he
Yeah,
won't be able to sleep now. He's too excited by the prospect that she's back in his life. He can't just let that go. He can't just go to sleep as if nothing's happened. He's like, no, I'm staying up. I'm not
yeah,
sleeping now. So
yeah.
I found that line very relatable. Uh, so yeah, we'll get to the main plan. So let's go back to Grace and some comedy there. Grace is sneaking around. The other traveller gave them some the nanites to use
Yeah.
for medical emergencies, and Grace wants to just program them and see if they work. And just let's see if it works against the virus. And Marcy quite rightly is like, well, we don't know how many contingencies they've thought of.
Yeah, yeah, they could, and this is presumably the go-to answer as well. So
Yeah, I mean, on top of everything else, they also have hindsight from the future, sending messages back. So
yeah,
if this did work, then they could send a message back and they know to like fight it or whatever, like or when they originally designed the virus, they
yeah, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
they'd have avenues to combat this.
Yeah, and I like that the guy providing the nanites brought up the ongoing theme of machine versus man decisions.
Yeah.
Where he was like, well, director's down, so I'm making the call, and it's the rest of them are kind of just stuck in limbo, waiting for answers, and he's taking the initiative.
Yeah, and Grace reacted the way we thought she would. She's like, immediately, we need to fix the director. He'll fix this. Let's get him
Yep.
back online. And
Yep.
to be fair, that actually ends up being kind of the thing that
It's
works.
the right plan. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I can't fault her in that sense. She needs to learn to be diplomatic, I think. She needs to learn to speak to people, perhaps.
Yeah.
Because she
Yeah.
sneaks off, just codes the thing, and shoves them into Jenny. It does not work. She has to go back on her plan and just sort of reset them again. It's like, oh well, okay, that didn't work. But ultimately, the conflict between her and Marcy, what really comes from this, and it does lead to some comedy. Because later on, when she gives it to Boyd first, when they actually get an antidote, and he's like, "Am I at least next?" It's like, no, the new traveller and Jenny's body's getting it next because she's almost dying. You can wait.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, there are lots of people before you. You're fine. You got days yet.
I'm starting to think you don't like me. I wonder why, Grace. I wonder why.
She's not particularly friendly, is she?
No, she's not. She's the most headstrong. I'll use the phrase headstrong.
Yes.
I'll be nice.
Even with like Trevor, who she's clearly the closest to, it's
Yeah.
still very aggressive. I think is a way of putting it.
Yeah. She's kind of like you, but turned up to 5,000. Always has to be right.
Exactly. Usually is, to be fair. This episode proved it right.
She wasn't right the whole way. The nanites weren't working. That was just a stupid dead end of a plan.
No. But the main core plan was the right plan.
Yeah, she didn't come up with how to do that though. That was the team. The team did that. She had the broad strokes. That's like me walking into you and saying, okay, to fix world hunger, just have to feed everyone, and then walking back out and then letting you come up with the details, the minutiae
Yeah, sir.
of how to feed everyone.
You'd be right.
Yeah, but I didn't accomplish anything. So,
I think she's a bit more useful than that.
oh, she's a bit more useful, but I'm just saying, right?
Yeah,
She
yeah.
thinks she's always right. She's maybe not always. I think her headstrong attitude is going to lead to some. I think we saw maybe the predecessor of a bigger issue that arises from her thinking she's always right in the future.
Probably,
maybe.
yeah.
But yeah, so no, I like that stuff. Obviously, again, Marcy kind of questioning, like questioning Gracie's decision to reset her when she wasn't really ready to, and so on. Of course, the other little tidbit that came up as well was just the debate amongst Jenny and Marcy, which I thought was particularly almost one-sided in a sense in terms of morality, because Jenny flat out says, "Well, so what you do is more moral because you pick people who are about to die," and Marcy's like, Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
pretty much. That's how it works. And I understand at least the logic of where the faction are coming from. It's like, well, they're all dead anyway, and it's this. From their perspective, they're going right. Well, they're all from where we're from. They're all dead. Their lives are almost inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. I get their logic, but again,
And
it's more that computer logic.
inconsequential. The whole argument, oh, it's hundreds of years ago, so they're dead anyway. Sure. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming they're at least checking to make sure that there's no descendants from these people that are important to their cause in the future.
I
You
assume
would
so.
imagine so. But, like, you're still ending someone's life before it was supposed to end, regardless of how inconsequential it may be in the
Oh
grand
no,
scheme.
no, that's it. Like it's
Yeah.
clearly morally right for our
Yeah.
team.
Which is why, like, when Marcy's just like, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
Duh.
exactly. Like Marcy's clearly in the right, but at least there's a logic that you can follow with the faction, which makes them more interesting.
Of course, you're saying, oh, logically, I understand them. I think you're showing your colder side there. What I was going to take from this conversation was more the vengeance that I was getting from her voice, particularly with the line of "It was them who screwed up this planet anyway." The 21st century people.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a
They're very
vindictive,
bitter, aren't they?
yeah. There's a vindictive tone to it where these people don't deserve to live because they're the ones who screwed the planet up in the first place. We're fixing their mistakes. It's a very us vs them kind of thing, and yeah, maybe I think that's actually quite interesting because I think even today when you talk about global warming, you talk about these things, but which obviously the show is taking some inspiration from, is saying okay, this is kind of where things go in some sense.
Yeah, they got a bit more, literal with it as well in this episode. We've had hints that that's what it's been. Like we've
Yeah.
had various edits, but they mention ice in this one. Like spreading. Different.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it entered ice age, perhaps.
Yeah, clearly famine, ice age, just
Yeah,
climate
yeah.
change, like all this stuff seems to be what happens. But even in the modern day context, you've got people who are like, yeah, this is happening. We should just do something about it, or maybe just stop doing some of the really bad things that are causing it. And then you have people who are just complete assholes who are like, no, this is not a thing. This is all lies.
I think that's part of where the faction are coming from, going,
Yeah.
well, like they're not doing enough to stop it. So it doesn't matter if we take their lives. We
Yeah.
can do more with
But-
their life than they will.
This is like looking at like Nazi Germany and saying that all Germans were evil because of what was going on with the Nazis. Like, no, there was
Of course.
there was millions and millions of people in Germany who were opposed to what was happening.
Yeah.
So
of course.
it's kind of that idea of looking back to the past and saying, well, they're all guilty. Well, they're not. Like, a powerful small percentage of them are guilty, who
Yeah.
were enforcing all the bad things that led to all this. But it's interesting to bring that up. It's just some political, subtext in there that it was kind of nice to squeeze in. So I like that. So the main plan, the main plot, the main thing that they're doing. So obviously some of our team are starting to get sick, but they're still functional. They can still do stuff. They just kind of look like a bad cold for a lot of the episode.
Yeah. They're getting rougher as it goes on, but they look like, okay, maybe I want to be in bed now.
I actually I'm curious if there's like a technique to make them sound like they have a bad throat. Because they all have a pretty convincing, just sort of slight tickle to their
Rough edge,
voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right, they do.
And I'm wondering, like, is that just something you learn to do as an actor, or are they?
I think the easiest way to do it is just don't drink any water for a few hours.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Especially on when you're under the lights and stuff for all these things. They're pretty warm.
Yeah. That helps with the sweat as well. You just don't put on as much makeup.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I'm just thinking.
Obviously, spray a little bit of water as well, but.
Yeah, of course. But I'm just thinking, give yourself a dry throat by not drinking for a few hours, just
Okay.
long enough where it's uncomfortable, and do your scenes then.
Is that asking too much of an actor though to like essentially be that uncomfortable?
Perhaps.
Especially,
I mean, it's up to them, really, isn't it?
especially if you find out later that they're partially dehydrated because they've been.
Yeah, no.
So I was just wonder if there's maybe actually a trick to it that maybe I just wasn't aware of because they were doing such a good job. Just because I've never seen it so many characters in one thing, at least from memory.
No, you're right. Usually you'll get like one person at a time
Yeah.
doing it.
Don't know. I mean, probably it's just a technique that you learn to do as an actor, I guess. But I don't think I can fake it.
No.
Anyway, so they've got this plan. So in the future, the reason why partly why the director's offline in the future is because energy. It needs plutonium to run.
Yeah.
Director's a heavy machine, right? So I like how it's time travel, but it's very obviously we get time travel, but it's not a time machine per se, right? We're just doing this conscious thing. But the plutonium does make me chuckle a little bit because it makes me think of Back to the Future, because that was the fuel for that. It didn't have to specifically be plutonium, of course, and it's probably the same in this case. Plutonium is just the thing that has the kick to.
It's a common radioactive isotope.
It's enough to give it a kick that it needs to get it going. So their plan is to get some plutonium and bury it near where the director will one day be, where it'll be built or where it'll live in the future, and have it close by so that in the future they can dig it up and power it.
Solid plan.
It's a fine plan, and so we're then led to believe that the plan is to go to this military base and try and get a nuclear warhead.
Yeah, because the first step of the plan fails, where they try. This is already a plan. They're mining it anyway, but that gets interrupted by the faction. Yeah,
that's like a good point. Actually, there's this little sub. I'd almost forgotten about that actually, just because I was
It ends up being almost inconsequential in the sense of. In the sense of that was actually just a false start.
What I liked about that though is that it shows what it did do though for the plot. I think is that it showed how the faction, because of the time travel, because they have the upper hand right now, because the director's not sending anything back. It's like, oh, they're going to look for uranium, so they went to the uranium storage that they're mining in present day and took it over and moved it all, so it's all gone and they don't know where it is.
They got the head start on them.
So I kind of like that, and then it goes to. In fact, actually, I wanted. Actually, was it in the uranium place when Mac and Carly show up with Trevor, where they both punch them?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to, because Trevor's like, oh, do you feel better? And Mac's like, no. He's like, shaking his hand, and Carly's like, yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
A good chuckle.
Yeah, Carly's at her best when she's been the brute, when she's been the muscle, but. So they go and four of them go into this, and I thought that looked suspicious in and of itself. Like, I mean, obviously Carly's got the FBI jacket that Matt got for her, so she's kind of official.
So you get the two of them, FBI, they're often go in pairs.
These two other guys in the back seat doesn't look suspicious at all. But they get in, they talk to. He's used his FBI connections, of course, to get in and blag this warhead, and she's very suspicious of it. She doesn't really believe what they're telling her, but she's under orders, so it's like, yeah, take it and get out. I don't even want to entertain this.
I do what I'm told, essentially.
Yeah. And they go to this mountain in Canada, actually, which I thought was a nice touch, that just because it's a Canadian TV show, that the base that the one day will be in the future is actually in Canada. And it was fun them walking up the mountain and being like, hey, that's where the dome's going to be built, and that's where that shelter's going to be built over there. Except it'll be under, what was it, like 100 feet of ice or something like that, they said.
Something like that. It's like, okay, clearly the weather has changed.
They're all subterranean, which I don't think I... Maybe we did mention that before, but I don't think I quite got that it was...
Because I think I was familiar enough with that, because, they always talk about it as shelters, which always...
I don't ever think I got the sense that it was that much underground, though.
Okay.
Like, I think in the past I maybe assumed it was like, oh, the land is like... radioactive or something. We can't go outside, so everything's underground because of that, rather than we're like this deep underground.
Okay, I'm with you.
Kind of thing. But I mean, hey,
sure.
That's it. I feel like we learn more about the future in this episode than we have in a while.
Oh, definitely.
Just from this casual chatting about where it is and the various domes and whatnot, and talking about the director. I feel like we learned a lot more about that in this episode. So they get into this cave. And Trevor's not there. Trevor's snuck off because they set up earlier on that him and Philip spent all night building this device, this sort of beacon thing that's meant to react if the director ever goes offline. It'll send out a signal, and this thing will turn on and do something. They don't tell us what it is. That's as much as we get. But of course, Forbes shows up. He's there, and he's got other faction members, and now it's like, no, we're not even pretending, like, these are faction. He's even trying to talk them into joining their side. He's like, hey, we're all trying to accomplish the same thing. Trust me, the director's not trustworthy. We should team up.
Yeah, I thought this was a really interesting conversation. Because obviously, Mac's like, hey, look, well, when we came from, you guys didn't even exist. Like, you're new to us, and they kind of don't even believe that, really. They're like, no, you just kind of...
Which we did know. We knew from episode 8 last year. Remember the guy was on trial because he was trying to defect, and
Yeah.
everyone turned out to be a traveler around the table. That was a really good scene.
It
But
was.
afterwards, when Max just sort of asking him as he's getting in the van about the future, and he sort of I think that was the first time we may have even learned about the faction, that there was two warring
Yeah.
sides. I think that was the first time we ever heard that. So we knew when they kind of found out about that, but this was here where like they're saying to the faction members, no, when we came from the future, you didn't exist. Like this wasn't a thing.
Of course, because their version of history, they always existed.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. In fact, speaking of interesting stuff, just to rewind a bit, there was a conversation in the car where
Yeah, I was just about to mention this.
where Carly said, "Oh, maybe the director can still fix this because technically, if no one's been sent back for what has to be months now, ever since that machine went online,
Yeah.
or was built, one of those two specific instances, then technically someone could be sent back before now, which I think for us as a viewer is interesting because that's before now in the timeline. Like, 'cause up until now, it's always been we've been
Concurrent with
watching
where we are, yeah.
Whereas now, oh no, something could actually go back and change. However, they immediately debunked this because Philip and Trevor bring up, no, the message has been sent back still counts. We can't send anything further
Yeah,
back than that.
I like this because it's like, no. This is the writers going, no, we know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
We know that you're considering this as a possibility. Because, they've only just revealed all the information that, okay, no, everything's here. So this is when we can start assuming maybe we could do that.
That said, though, my money's still on that one day they'll break this rule. And there'll be consequences
I think
from
they'll
it.
find a way somehow, yeah.
Yeah. And even the fact that they had this conversation made me think, oh, maybe they'll risk it if it's just the messages and it's not been a person that's been sent back.
Maybe. Well, I don't know. Is it just that they choose not to because it interrupt the flow? Because it sounds, if I recall, they physically can't because they talk about how every time they do it, the space-time stuff, it actually moves a touch and it reconfigures, so they can't go before that point.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, again, they might figure out a way.
I assume that at some point they'll find a way.
Yeah, I would bet money that eventually this rule's going to be broken.
Oh, I agree, especially with the way they always kind of keep reminding us. Like, even here, this is just a reminder that this rule exists for all intents and purposes.
But I think it'll be a big deal when it happens. There'll be consequences from it. It won't be taken lightly, which is why it's important that we've set up all these rules. Because when it does happen, we'll go, "Oh shit, that just happened. Like that shouldn't happen." So then we'll have effects from it. But yeah, so that was a really interesting conversation. So basically, this is all a ruse because Walt's all like, "Hey, well, we got your warhead." Like, and I think up until this point, it's interesting that they've not been trying to kill each other. Like, even before when they were stealing the plutonium that they were mining, and even after when our team showed up, they just punched them. Like, no one has been killing each other. They've had no need to. Like, I mean, I don't think they wouldn't do it, but there was no need to just do it for the sake of. It's not kill them on sight. It's not. We're trying to eradicate.
Exactly. It's if we need to, sure, but
which is actually how our team kind of like sort of tricked them here is because they're like, oh, you thought we could just get a nuclear warhead that I could just walk into a base and get one of those, which is a fair point. Like
it is. Because I was questioning it. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I was like, I know you said you're under orders to just give this away, but really?
Yeah, it was earlier on when they were first coming up with the idea, and he was like, oh, that'll be really hard. And I'm like, yeah, that will be really hard. But then it was just kind of going along with it. I'm like, okay, fair enough. I'll just go with it, whatever. But when he brought it up, I was like, oh, I'm actually glad they went back in this because, yeah, I don't really buy that an FBI agent can just walk in and get a nuclear warhead.
Yeah.
That's a bit, but so they detonate it. So all the men who were taken away in the faction down the tunnel all die with it, leaving just these. Because this is the great thing about this plan. For this plan to work, they have to kill them all. Because none of this can ever get out of here. This has to be a secret so that the faction never know about it in the future.
Exactly.
That's what this plan has. This is how it has to work. So Trevor's planting that device that we're working on. He's planted that elsewhere in the cave, and they get in a gunfight. They actually take out everyone but Walt. They chase Walt outside, and it's just as Walt's going outside, the timer starts to come out at some point here.
Like, oh yeah.
And it's like, oh, something's working. This has worked. And sure enough, all the faction members all get replaced with actual travelers. Yeah. So we've got
so satisfying.
So we've got Walt 3.0 and we've got Jenny 3.0. I'm borrowing that from I think it was Philip who called her that, but we'll go with 3.0. It just makes
I like it.
Makes the most sense. And he explains, hey, it worked. Like, the device turned on. I'm still not entirely clear what the device did exactly, other than kind of let people know in the future.
Yeah, because where was the uranium still? Because it sounded like the device was, it was this beacon, but how did it power it? And I mean, the thing is, it didn't power
Oh,
it for
no.
very long.
Oh yeah, because he says only powered it for like was it
3
13
seconds, I
seconds
think
or
it was.
3 seconds?
Yeah, it was
3 or
something
13.
stupidly small.
But it was small. It was just enough time to send these people through and
Send this stuff through, work out the formula for the antivirus.
Well, the virus wouldn't have been in that 13 seconds, I don't think.
No, I think it is because it pops up for on the screen. I think I'm sure Walt says that like in when Walt's explaining what happened. I'm sure he says he came up with the formula.
Oh yeah, no, but I'm assuming the information about the virus is in the device that they've planted, right? So they work out the cure for it before they turn the machine on.
Oh, see, I didn't get it. The way he was saying it sounded like the director's that powerful that 3 seconds is enough for all of this. Like, it only took that, but, it created all that stuff in that 3
I don't think
seconds.
it needs to be though. I feel like that's an unnecessary thing that the director has to be able to do. I feel like, but we're working with time travel. To me, I just read it as they had decades to figure it out.
Maybe, but I mean, but he says the beacon only activates, after the director goes off.
But yeah, so they just don't turn it back on until they figured it out.
I mean, sure, but I don't know. It just seemed like the director did it the way we're saying it to me.
Okay, I mean, it's not a big difference really.
No,
in the grand scheme of things.
I prefer it this way if it's the director can, its computational power is that quick.
Okay, sure. I mean, I just never jumped to the director's that powerful, he can do this in like 3 seconds.
Yeah. Okay.
So I read it the way my mind made sense of it, which is no, they had decades to figure this out, and then because it's like everything on this show, everything that's happened in the past, they have decades to then kind of have that information and then send something back to counteract it because they've had time to think about it.
Yeah.
And I say I mean generations of people, and
yes, of course.
Hindsight's of course 2020. So and that's what they always have is hindsight. Not permanently though. At least right now the director's back offline.
Yes, exactly.
So we'll see how that goes. And they couldn't account for all the faction members, so there's still some faction members out there who have been unchanged.
Indeed. But the director, he sent a bunch to this point in time, but presumably going forward as well, we'll have a reasonable amount of what it sent.
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming, like you say, it's time travel. Just because we're seeing this moment now, the director could have just looked ahead and gone, all right, okay, need something there.
Well, that's tricky though, because if things change after, like, in the timeline after this, he can never go further back. So if he's already planned for people in the future, then we can't go with the idea that there's hindsight anymore.
No, I know, but it's one of these weird things where even if they change something in the here and now, the director in that future has already experienced that change, right?
No.
No?
Not really, no.
Okay.
No, because the way my mind processes this show is that every time something changes, essentially time just kind of plays out after that. Until the day in the future where the director has that knowledge and figures things out and then sends something back to counteract it.
Okay, so you think it was literally just to this moment and we won't get anything going forward?
I'm not saying we're going to get anything going forward, but I feel like, I feel like for now the director's offline again. And
okay.
I mean, they might prove me wrong in the very next episode.
They could do.
I don't know. Well, no, at the very least it's sending messages back because we get a kid at the end.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So if it does the kid at the end, then we'll get other stuff going forward. From that whatever brief window it was online, it planned the next chunk of missions.
Has to run out though. It can't be infinite.
It can't be infinite, but a while maybe. I don't know. I agree, it can't be forever.
Yeah. Because he definitely said it was only for like 3 or 13 seconds, whatever the time was, and he's offline again.
Yes.
So, yeah, I don't know. But they do get a message at the end, so I can't... I mean, unless the message at the end turns out to be, the director's back online, like...
It could well be for all.
Because again, it's time travel, so even if it takes years in the future to do that, then...
No, exactly. It could be just a case of going, all right, here's, whatever... Maybe it doesn't send loads of missions going forward, but it sent this one to go, right, okay, find a way to get me online permanently.
Wait a minute, that doesn't have to be the director, though. Because the faction could send messages back without the director, so why couldn't
No, that's true, you're right.
the Traveller side do that as well?
Oh, that's true.
So, we'll have to wait and see what the message is before we...
That said, the Travellers haven't been sending anything back, message-wise, without the director, have they?
Well, not before now, but maybe now that...
No, maybe now they can.
Because they knew the faction was doing it, so...
Yeah, they were.
I don't know. We'll find out next episode. I mean, a lot of this is speculation, but key point is all these faction members have all been replaced with actual travelers. When I say all, I mean all the ones that we knew kind of close by. There's still some
all
out
the
there.
ones we'd seen.
Yeah, there's still out. So there's some faction members out there who are now cut off in the future. Interested to see how this maybe affects anything with the Ingram stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if he's intentionally trying to start something like this. I'm just assuming he's somehow responsible in terms of the timeline.
No, I'm assuming that as well, but it's a question of whether it's intentional or not, isn't it?
Yeah, because we don't really know. Because he does have a group that's helping him kidnap people, but I mean, it's a question of, is that the faction? Well, they said that was a faction, so maybe it just is deflection already.
Yeah. Well, we haven't really got much of him lately.
There's been a few episodes.
Yeah.
I'm awaiting his grand return soon, I imagine.
I'm hoping so.
What he's up to. But he did go into hiding, of course, because
he did.
His kid get that message, so it makes sense he's been kind of dark for a little bit.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Some of this gets quite complex. As you can see, we had kind of different reads on a couple of different things, just based on
a couple of lines of dialogue.
Yeah, and the phrasing of said dialogue. But
I imagine it'll clear things up as we go. You know how even last episode we were discussing some of the rules. You know, what's the situation, and then this episode took the time to establish a good handful of those things.
Yeah, it cleared some of them up, and then obviously there's a few things where we're maybe not quite as clear on it just exactly like how much the director could do in that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure that'll be clarified more as we go on, because the show's been typically very good at that. I feel like whenever it gives something where I don't quite understand it yet, a couple of episodes later, I feel like it's really solidified kind of what it was getting at.
And again, this is essentially the introduction of the idea here in these couple of lines. So it's okay to be unclear on it right now. It can be a little bit okay. Maybe the team doesn't really know what the situation is exactly yet, so we'll learn with them.
I think especially since we don't even know what that device really was. Outside of the fact that it was going to activate once the director went offline in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, other than that, we don't know exactly what it did, except maybe power it for 13 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and let the hero travelers in the future know about what had happened and why it's here, and maybe and that kind of thing. So. No, so obviously they cure everything. They get it to the CDC, and a vaccine is brought up, and everyone's getting immune, and happy days. Everyone's fixed.
Pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty good. And Carly goes home. Matt goes to see Kat.
I will say, Carly is like, she's trying to phone Jeff, and he's not answering. I was like, please let him be dead. Please let him be dead.
Yeah, but who's going to look after young Jeffrey if he's dead?
That's what babysitters are for.
Okay. So, given her job, though, and what she is getting called away to do at days at a time, that's going to rack up.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Going to rack up the babysitting expenses.
They have Philip for that, right? He can get some money.
I thought this was an exciting episode that played more with the mythology. Opened some questions for us, clearly, as well, but that's it. I think the questions that we had there and that we were debating over weren't actually that big in the grand scheme of things. I think the core thematic things they're playing with were nailing, I think,
absolutely,
what they're doing. So
yeah. Just another little moment I really like. How we were talking about Marcy kind of going off away at the end from David, but like, I'll be back. But she's kind of just rushing out to get to other patients because that's they come first to her.
She's a doctor,
or at least right now. It was like, she leaves him the vaccine. Take it for your friend. Obviously, not even stopping to realize that it's kind of too late.
He's dead. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it was a nice moment. Just him kind of not saying anything and letting her just rush off.
Yeah, because you understand. This is like, if we're going back to her being Batgirl, this is the normal person realizing she's always going to be this superhero, and he can't talk her out of it. So you just have to accept that that's who she is.
Yeah.
And let her go off to be Batgirl. That's simple.
Exactly.
Yeah, and also I just like that when she said patient, she actually meant like Trevor, Philip, and that. Like she comes back in, she's like, "How my patient's doing?"
Yeah, exactly. I assume she went and gave it to a few other people in the meantime as well, though.
Yeah, other travellers, I imagine. Who
and on the way round, and then got back to base.
Yeah, probably. But it was a nice moment also. So we'll find out next episode what that kid says at the end.
Yep.
There have been proper
What?
cocktail. No, I mean, don't get me wrong. The cliffhanger moment worked because it's like, oh, the traveler sent a like the director sent a message to the travelers. Finally, it's been a while because it's always
Yeah.
been others, and it was nice having the countdown back. So that's why it kind of worked as a cliffhanger. But I'm like, come on, just let us hear what he has to say
Hear what
first.
the mission is and go, that's the tease.
Yeah, you should have done that. Come on now.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Anyway, that is Travelers Season 2, Episode 6. So let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. And by all means, give us your opinion in did the computer just work out the everything in like 13 seconds, or did people help work it out first and then turn the director on to send it back? I'm not going to be that pissed if I'm wrong, but
No, it's well, it doesn't really matter, does it?
nah, this
But
is not a big deal.
it just a little bit of personal pride either way.
Yeah. I got a few things right in some other shows recently, though, so I'm feeling good about myself. That's fine.
No, that's true. I'll give you those.
But hey, that is us. So if you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailedfuzztv. You can do that over there. There's a link to that in the description, as well as some other useful links. Twitter at mailed_fuzz if you want to get us on there. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?